Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever lost a loved one and felt guilty, angry, lost, sad, or depressed, or simply wanted a sense of closure or a chance to say goodbye you never got, then do we have the show for you. Today we'll be talking with Dr. Jamie Turndorf, also known as Dr. Love, known to millions through her website, AskDrLove.com, and in major magazines and networks, like CNN, which recently dubbed her the resident love doctor. She also hosts a radio show on Hay House and has a new book by the very title, Love Never Dies. Today we'll look at what happened to Jamie after her husband of 27 years passed away and then began revisiting her. We'll talk about love, life, death, and why death do we part may be 180 degrees wrong. That plus we'll look at what squirrels have to tell us, why you might want to switch that Miata for a Porsche, and why electronics flip on for Michael at 3:36 in the morning. So welcome to the show, Jamie. Are you ready to shine?
It's wonderful to be with you.
It's fantastic to have you here. So before we dive right into things, I've got to ask, there was this magnificent soul in your life, still is, Jean.
Jean.
Oh, merci.
He is French. We have to say Jean.
Oui. I lived in France for several years. I actually used to have a bad habit. It's gotten me in real trouble by pronouncing people with a French name when they didn't have French.
In the one case you needed to use that French accent.
Sacre bleu.
Oh, quelle horreur.
So tell us about Jean.
All right. Well, everybody, all your audience needs a little backstory to understand the magnificence of the story between me and Jean. Okay, we will jump right in and to realize the significance for everyone. So when I was a young girl, Michael, I had a detailed premonition of the man I was going to marry. I actually saw his face. I saw his body. He was fleshed out to me. So I decided to wait until the man that I had seen appears. And he actually did appear on the first day of my freshman year at Vassar College. I'd been shut out of all intro sociology classes, and my heart wanted to take sociology. So I asked the secretary of the department, Judy Cadwallader, what can I do? She says, go ask the department chair, Jean Pain, if he can find a seat for you in one of the closed classes. Well, the minute I stepped into Jean's office, I had the first and only out-of-body experience of my life. I literally felt my soul shooting at high speed through a tunnel to the end of my life. And then when I shot back into my body, I received the message, remember every aspect of this meeting, he's going to be everything to you one day. And then I forgot all about it and went about my life as a college student. Now, it's important to know that right after I met Jean, I found out that for most of his life, he had been one of the most famous Jesuit priests in history. He had taught at the Vatican, and he founded a movement called liberation theology designed to fight church oppression from within. And he actually launched to international fame when he publicly opposed the Pope and the Catholic Church as they were trying to huge, right? They were trying to block the legalization of divorce, and he was a radical feminist Jesuit priest, and he didn't want to see women trapped in marriages where they were being abused. So he fought on the grounds of liberation theology, this movement he founded to fight church oppression from within. He got the divorce bill passed. He changed the course of Italian history, and soon after, the Pope granted him the dispensation of his vows so that he wasn't excommunicated, and he was recruited by Vassar to be the chair of the Department of Sociology. And he had been there for 10 years on that fated day that I met him. Now, everybody needs to know, because this is very significant in the story, my background was completely different from Jean's. I was raised by two devoutly atheist Jewish parents. The only religion my parents practiced was religiously hating each other's guts.
Oh, no.
And mine. And they just taught me not to believe in God or the afterlife. And so I never went to church or synagogue or any of that. Now, in the senior year at Vassar, I needed help with the statistical portion of my thesis.
So I got to ask, did he let you in the class?
Oh, yes, he let me in. He did. But then we really didn't have anything to do with each other until my senior year. In my senior year, I needed help with the statistical portion of my thesis. And even though he wasn't my advisor, I asked him if he could help me because I had heard that, among other things, Jean had been a prominent statistician, having founded the Vatican's first and only social research center. So he helped me. And within a couple of weeks, Michael, we just knew we were crazy for each other. We were twins separated at birth. We were soulmates. From that point on, for 27 years, we were inseparable. Now, in the last year of Jean's bodily existence, we both started having premonitions that he was going to, quote unquote, die of an accident. We just didn't know when or where it was going to happen.
Now, from what I understand, he was actually, he's quite a bit older than you, but he was the healthier of the two. He was an ox.
He was just absolutely, he didn't live in a body. The guy, I mean, one time he slipped on ice. He fell flat on his face. He didn't even have a scratch. He was just so ethereal. It was amazing. When you look at his photos, you can see that. And I used to tease him, you need a younger wife, Jean. That was a fact. So now we are due to embark on our final vacation to Italy, and lightning strikes the rose arbor and destroys it. And then I see 40 huge crows, and I say, uh-oh, this is not good.
And you had told each other you were going to live a very long life together.
Right.
And he's telling you at this point, or you're both telling each other, that may
he
not
said
be the
to me,
case.
I'm not going to be able to keep my word. One night he said this, I'm not going to be able to keep my word and live very old and die with you. I'm going to die of an accident. And I said, I know. And I said, I will be alone. And he said, you're not going to be alone, Jamie. You're going to see. I will send you my clone. I'll come back to that later, what that meant. So anyway, so we go to Italy, and one day we're sitting on the beach, and Jean's hand was up over his head like this, as if to block the rays of the sun.
Yep.
And Michael, the next thing I know, a bee swoops down and stings him at the exact location of Christ's stigmata. And I remember thinking, he's been struck by a bolt of lightning. He's dead. And the next thing I know, I watch my beloved suffocate to death in front of my eyes from the bee sting. And I described this in part 1 of Love Never Dies, the agony of having him ripped from me in this way. And I finally go back to the hotel room, and I'm lying on the bed, and I'm shaking and I'm trembling. I'm hysterically crying. And the next thing I know, Michael, I feel that man's hand stroke the entire length of my spine. And I sit bolt upright. I look over my shoulder because I know what I felt. Now, I don't see anything, but I knew he was there with me in spirit. And he has been with me ever since that moment. And his amazing, astonishing, and ongoing manifestations in front of witnesses have proven to me, the former atheist, that we don't die. And therefore, our relationships are not meant to end in death. And so I've created what I call my transdimensional grief therapy method, which completely diverges from the Western approach to grief, which is grieve, let go, and move on, and do it in 6 months, or else we're going to slap a psychiatric label on you.
And
we're going to give you
meds.
drugs. Right. This is an abomination.
So
instead,
I want to back up for just a minute, because I find this fascinating. He passes away, and then you start to be visited for him. How did this both come about, and how were you feeling? What was going on at that point?
Well, the thing is, when I first felt his hand on my spine, I was so absolutely flabbergasted. Mm-hmm. I knew what I felt. So the thing is, the discovery of his presence came, in increments. That first event was just one. And in part 1 of Love Never Dies, I share all the ways. But let me just finish this one point, and then I'll come back to that, okay? So because I discovered he was here, and because as a shrink, I know the Western approach to grief therapy is absolutely a disaster, I developed this new grief therapy method that enables the bereaved to reconnect to their loved ones without a medium, channeler, or a psychic. And then there's just one more piece in Love Never Dies. I show you how to use my dialoguing with the departed technique to heal any unfinished business that still remains. Because as a shrink, I know millions of people harbor unfinished business. And again, Western grief therapy offers us no way of working it out. So to come back to your question, how did I deal with this? How did I feel? Part 1 of Love Never Dies, I go into my own experience, picking up on the night where he stroked my spine. And I describe my amazement as I see his presence is so obvious. And I give so many examples. Now, obviously, the examples continue because, as you said, you asked for a wake-up call, right? You told me that, right? And he makes his presence known all the time to my show hosts, to me, to my patients, to my Hay House callers. He's just here, So, I mean, I can give an example if you want from the first part. Sure. Would you like me to? I mean, there's so many, but here's just one. When I came back from Italy, and I'm in our bed alone for the first time, I hear Jean quoting something to me. And I know it's a quote, but I don't recognize it. I'll mention more about that in a second. So the next morning, I go down to the kitchen and I hear Jean saying to me, Jamie, open the kitchen door. I want to show you something. Mm-hmm. So I open the door, Michael, and what I see is a little chipmunk sitting on the stoop. And the chipmunk is not moving. He's in a trance. His eyes are almost closed. And the next thing I know, I see that little creature beginning to mimic my husband's bodily departure. He starts to choke and gasp, and he's ripping at his little face with his little hands the way my husband was ripping at the oxygen mask. And of course, tears are pouring down my face as I watch this little creature mimicking my husband's bodily departure. And after 20 minutes of this, I see the chipmunk visibly cough up a wonk of mucus, and he's in peace. And I knew my husband was communicating with me through this little animal. I've since dubbed animals, both domestic and wild, as open vessels, because they are naturally open vessels for spirit to communicate with us. So that's just one of the ways that I notice that Jean speaks to me. And also he speaks to me and you and my callers and my patients through what I call earthly props, which are electronic devices, because spirit beings are pure energy, right? They're very easily able to interrupt electronic frequencies and mess with lights and computers and so on. So, I mean, when you read part 1 of Love Never Dies, you will get the story of my discovery. But the most important thing that I want everybody to get is that our manifestations, his manifestations, are so over the top. And sometimes people will call me on the Love Never Dies show and say, Jamie, I hate you. Jamie, I'm jealous of you. I'm not getting anything like this. And in fact, that is not true. And we'll talk more about that in a minute as well. But the most important thing is Jean said to me, Jamie, let our love shine like a torch that lights the path for others. So his over-the-top manifestations aren't just for me. They're for you. They're for everybody watching this show. To let you know that your loved ones are here with you too. They're just waiting for you to open the door of your heart and let them back in.
It's to me, it's so important because we're almost all taught, and maybe not all religions, but the majority of them, we're taught when they're gone, they're gone. Get over it, move on.
Thank you for saying that, because that is the perfect segue into part 2 of Love Never Dies, which is overcoming all the false beliefs, the false religious teachings that block people from reconnecting. Now, what you just said was so in tune with where we go next in part 2 of Love Never Dies. Now, you said people who are raised in faith are told when they're gone, they're gone. You can't and you shouldn't reconnect with them. Now, remember I said my first night back, Jean was quoting something, and I didn't know what it was. So I would like to share that with your audience, because remember, he was a religious pioneer in life, and he continues to be in the afterlife. The day that I went to meet with his priest for the first time to prepare the readings for his funeral, which was the morning after that night where he was speaking to me, I go to his priest and I say, you know what? Jean is quoting something to me. So the priest raises his brow like, this babe has lost her marbles, right? But then I tell him what Jean said, and the priest goes white. He crosses himself. And he says, dear God, Jamie, at first I didn't believe that Jean was speaking to you, but I do now. And he says, you are quoting an obscure biblical passage from the Communion of Saints. Like I would have known? As I said, I never read the Bible, never went to church, and Jean and I did not discuss religion when he lived in a body. It took me 1 year to understand why Jean quoted that passage to me. Because remember, he was a religious pioneer in life. He continues to be. The communion of saints says that our loved ones in spirit are one with or in communion with God and the saints. And since the Bible tells us we are supposed to stay in communion and communication with God and the saints, Jean was showing me that the Bible is saying we are supposed to stay in communion and communication with our loved ones in spirit because they are one with God and the saints. So his point is what we have been told about the afterlife is dead wrong, if you'll pardon my pun. Heaven, he said, is a state, not a place. Heaven is all around us. Heaven is here and now. So the point is we are not supposed to live in an emotional wasteland separated from those we love, waiting until that we die so that we enter heaven and reconnect with them. As Jean was saying, and he says it over and over, death is an illusion. There's a very thin veil between the realm where you are and the realm where I am. The veil is thinner than you can ever imagine. I'm standing right here.
It's fascinating.
The point is reconnect and stay connected and do it now.
Woohoo!
Right? Right.
What's fascinating is they're so close, and I've had experiences, not as strong as yours, but I've had experiences, and it's our belief system, it seems, that's the block that's shutting down the communication that's waiting for us, just ready.
Absolutely. It's so great doing this interview with you because you not only read the book and understood it, but you get it on a deep level. Our belief systems deadbolt the door of our hearts to spirit, and they're banging on the door asking us to come back in. Do you want me to give you some other misconceptions that are blocking people? Because this is so important, and this is really my calling now as a mainstream shrink. I've lost the mainstream, and it's all about letting people know we don't die and we need to reconnect and we need to do it now, and it's never too late to make peace. So here's another big misconception. This one is, well, okay, maybe you can reconnect with them initially, but once they're in heaven, you're not going to hear from them anymore.
Wait now, a second. Didn't you just say heaven is everywhere? Heaven is a state, not a place?
Exactly. But this is such a mainstream misconception, and I discovered this when I went back to Jean's priest to continue sharing with him Jean's ongoing miracles and manifestations. And that's when the priest said, well, brace yourself, Effie. You know, when he's in heaven, you're not going to hear from him anymore. So I was really upset by this. And the whole day it's bugging me. And in the evening, I make the circle for the group that I run in my office. And everybody is late except Ashley, a new patient, never met me before. She comes into the group, we shut the group room door, and suddenly we hear ding, ding. That's the sound that the front door chime makes when my burglar alarm registers that the door has opened. Now we hear bang, 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 footsteps. And then they stop in the waiting room adjacent to the group room. So I say, Ashley, I think someone got his time wrong and thinks it's an individual session that he's coming to. Now we hear bang, 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 the footsteps leaving, and then ding, ding, the front door opening and closing again. I said, wait a minute, I got to go speak to this person. So in the 2 steps it takes me to go from the group room through the waiting room to the front door, there is no way that this person could have walked all the way down the driveway to where the car park area is, which is so far, without my having seen him walking back to his car. So I open the door expecting to shout out. There's nobody there. There's no car and there's nobody. So I come back and I say, Ashley, there was nobody there. She says, it was a spirit. She doesn't even know my story, right? So that was Jean's answer to the priest's comment, well, once I'm in heaven, you're not going to hear from me anymore. Did you hear those footsteps? It's hilarious, right? So do you want me to also share some other misconceptions that we need to really ditch?
I think it's important because if we stick with the misconceptions, then we can get all the tools in the world, but we have the blocks that won't let us step past them.
Exactly. Here's another one, and this one is very common. Well, if you reconnect, you can't move on with your life. This is bass backwards, this one, because what I see is no matter what, if we are disconnected from those we love, we silently grieve for the rest of our lives, because it's not normal to be disconnected from those we love. We're marinating in misery. Now, is that helping us to move on with our lives and re-enter our lives? Absolutely not. But what I see week after week on the Hay House radio show, people call in, and I help them reconnect and dialogue with their loved ones, and their grief transforms to joy immediately. And they are now re-entering their lives fully. Okay? So that's a very important one. Now, here's another one. Yeah. Well, if we reconnect with a loved one in spirit, especially a life partner or spouse, we won't be able to love again. Where'd we get that idea? That's like saying to a mother after she has a first child, do you love your first child? Yes. Well, you can't have any more. You know, our hearts are made to love. We have so much room to love everybody who walks the earth plane and everybody who walks in spirit. Now, here's another one. I mean, you could see, I just want everybody to just shed all of this like a snake sheds its skin.
Shed away.
Shed away. Here's another one. Well, if you reconnect, you'll prevent them from moving on. You hear that?
Guilt.
Oh, you know, you're holding them back from going somewhere. Again, these are all our earthly misconceptions about crossing over and moving over. They don't go anywhere. They're right here. Okay. So, and that ties in with the science. In part 2 of Love Never Dies, part two of part 2, I talk about the latest science, right? And what we now understand.
I want to pause you for one brief second, because we'll go to the science in just a second. But I hear some people wondering maybe even if what I said was a little cold and callous, going, are you sure? How could we be sure? Because if not, couldn't we be hurting our loved ones?
All right, well, let's come back to this. Every loved one in spirit that I hear, from my patients to the Hay House radio callers, loved ones in spirit, to Jean, they all say the same thing. What else is there for me to do? It's my full-time occupation to love you. Their holy work is to watch over us, to be our spirit guides, to hold our hands as we travel down the bumpy road called life, and to assist us in fulfilling our full spiritual development and our soul destinies. That's what their work is. And so when people think, oh, they have something else to do, no, we are their work. They're here to love us, watch over us, and protect us. Okay?
Beautiful. And that's actually the line that I don't have it written down right here from, I had to go. I needed to be informed. I could protect you better.
Correct. So, I had to go. I needed to be in the form I'm in to protect you better. And he also said, what else is there for me to do? It's my full-time occupation to love you. And I hear this over and over again. So they want to love us and protect us and help us, and that is their work. So please don't think, and of course, we don't want to deify our egos and think we have the power to keep a spirit being from doing what it needs to do, what its destiny is to do. We don't have that kind of power anyway, right?
Makes sense. Okay, now go for it.
Okay, so, well, for the rest of the misconceptions, well, you can read Love Never Dies. I tick them all off. There are, one by one, we just have to eliminate them. Now, the thing is, for a lot of people, especially rational, scientific-minded people, the second part of part 2 of Love Never Dies is helpful because I talk about the latest science of how this is even possible, right? Because this is not as woo-woo as we think. So one of the things that the latest scientists are finding out and the quantum physicists are finding out is that 95% of our universe is dark matter, right? Because it doesn't reflect light. And so what we now believe is that in this 95% that's all around us, that's where our spirits are. That's where our loved ones in spirit are. And that fits with what Jean was saying. Death is an illusion. There's a very thin veil between the realm where you are and the realm where I am. That sounds like dark matter, right? So, I talk about the holographic model and non-local consciousness that, when we leave our bodies and we shed the turtle shell, the energy of our being still continues. Now, I just want to demystify this for everybody. Remember Einstein said that energy cannot be destroyed? So essentially, when we leave our bodies, we shed the turtle shell. What's left of us is the energy of our soul, okay? And that does not go away. So basically what I'm showing you to do, how to do here, is to learn how to tune to what I call the spirit channel in your brain and send and receive energetic signals, because that's all we're talking about, is us sending and them receiving and them sending and us receiving energetic signals. And I want to demystify this even further and say, we energetically communicate on a daily basis. We're born with the innate apparatus to energetically communicate, and we do it. Think about when you're parked at a light, right? And you look over at that driver in the neighboring car. Doesn't that driver always look back at you? Always, right? Because he or she senses the energetic frequency of your gaze. That's energetic communication. How do twins know when the other twin is in trouble, even though they're living on opposite ends of the world? Energetic communication. How do close married couples know what the other's thinking? Or, oh, he was just going to call, and then the phone rings. Energy. And I didn't say this in Love Never Dies, but it's actually funny. How did Jean always know the day my period was due? And he'd come home with a box of tampons. And it wasn't on the calendar, and it wasn't because I was a PMSing bitch or any of that. He just energetically knew. So what I start to teach you now in part 3, and this is what I'm so excited about for everybody, is I teach you how to tune to the spirit channel of your brain so that you can reestablish your relationship with loved ones in spirit and dialogue with them. So can we get into this now so we can start to let everybody know how we're going to do this for you? So
let's do Tune In 101, we'll call it.
Okay, excellent. So obviously the first thing that we need to do, and this is what part 3 of Love Never Dies goes into detail about, but we have to create what I call a state of receptivity. Okay? Jean said to me, Jamie, the noise of the day drowns me out. So anytime you want to hear me, come to the bed and be still and quiet, and you will hear me. So he was already showing me the prerequisite for reconnecting is to be still and quiet. And of course, our Western world is not about quiet at all. We've got the movie, the TV on, the music on, our devices on. So what I advise you to do is to create pockets of peace. And I'm not saying you have to convert your condo into a convent. I'm just saying little moments of peace, how to sit in silence, turn off the TV, turn off the music, find the peaceful practice that's right for you. And of course, in Love Never Dies, I have all kinds of meditations to help you find that center and enter a trance.
And I think nature is very important to you. I think you would recommend that for people too.
Absolutely, I do. I show you how to reconnect in nature, how to use the hypnagogic or twilight state when you are just awakening or just before falling asleep, where we are more naturally open to spirit. And I also show you how to breathe. I had a woman drive many hours yesterday to come in and have me help her bring Love Never Dies to life. And I kept reminding her, just breathe. Spirit is born on the breath. And every time she breathed in, her husband was there. Now, the other thing that I show you how to do is I give you exercises for opening your 5 senses. Because remember, spirit beings are pure energy. So they're energetically able to send and receive signals to all your senses. So the more your sensory receiver is in the on position, the more you're going to be able to perceive the signs that are being sent to you. So now this segues into the next step.
And before we do that, if we gift wrap this, in a sense, the term is overused these days, but in a sense, it is being mindful or being present or in the now.
Absolutely right. That's perfect. Because if you're in the now, you're not in the past, you're not in the future. And that's another thing I show you in this chapter in Love Never Dies, how to titrate your emotions. Because when you're especially early on in grief, it's very easy to get flooded and your feelings wash you overboard. And that shuts down your ability to send and receive energetic signals in the same way that atmospheric storms block the sending and receiving of radio or TV signals. So I show you how to get around this. That's very important. So now we have made you more receptive. Now the next step is to recognize the signs that are being sent your way every day. Remember I said a few minutes ago, people call me on Hay House and they say, I hate you, I'm not getting signs. But it turns out when people read the chapter in Love Never Dies on recognizing the signs, and they see all the ways that I've categorized Jean's signs, they say, oh, this happened and that happened and this happened. So for a lot of people, recognizing the signs is sufficient to begin the process.
What are a few of the other common signs? Perfect.
I'm going to tell you because they are infinite. Signs are infinite because, remember, spirit beings are able to influence the material world in infinite ways because they're pure energy. They can create odd sounds like those footsteps, right? Mm-hmm. They can make animals behave oddly like the chipmunk. They can create odd sensations in us, chills, temperature changes, goose flesh, right? They love to give us signs through symbolic communication like butterflies. And also they love to manifest coins like pennies from heaven. This is a really fun story. It was the anniversary week of Jean's bodily departure. And on that week, he always drops coins on me that were minted the year he left his body. Okay, so I mentioned this to my patient, Kyla, and she kind of blinks and she says, Jamie, I can't believe I almost forgot. She said, you see my cowboy boots? They were off my feet when I was in my bedroom, when I got the message that the coin that suddenly dropped out of thin air and fell in my boot was for you. She says it fell from the sky. He materialized it. So she says, let me give it to you now. She takes her boot off and she hands me the coin. And as she's handing it, I hear Jean saying to me, you'll see, it was minted the year I left my body. And it was. Okay. Now, here, at this point, you have to fasten your seatbelts. Because where we go next in Love Never Dies is a whole, I know you love that, like in your spaceship, fasten my seatbelts. Because I take spirit communication to an entirely new place. What I'm going to tell you here. The CEO of Hay House said, Jamie, we've never seen anything like what you do next in Love Never Dies. And that's saying a lot because Hay House is the woo-woo publisher and they've seen it all. So what I show you how to do next is I show you how you can dialogue back and forth with those in spirit to obtain guidance and to get, support to say goodbye to the physical body and even to heal unfinished business. Now, the way spirits dialogue with us is different than just dropping signs. Signs are static signs like the coin that was dropped, okay? So can I give an example of the difference between a static sign versus a dialogue with the help of these signs, with the help of human and animal open vessels, with the help of earthly props, which are electronics? Can I give you a couple examples of the difference?
We're game.
Okay, cool. All right. So it was the anniversary week of Jean's bodily departure. I go to the chiropractor. I'm alone in the office. And I say to Teresa, this is the anniversary week. And Jean's been dropping a lot of signs on me. With that, Michael, I smell gardenia. Beautiful. I don't say a word. And Teresa looks at me and she says, Jamie, do you smell gardenias? I said, Teresa, that is fantastic. That's a sign. It's called the scent of sanctity. And Jean is dropping that sign on both of us. Okay? That's not a dialogue. Now I go back to my office and I have a patient in my office named Regina who desperately needs to reconnect with her sister. I tell her the story about the scent of sanctity and the smell of gardenias. Suddenly, I hear Jean speaking to me. He says to me, Jamie, I wish I could give you roses. Now, Jean gave me roses every week, and this is what I heard. Regina pops up off the couch, and she says, Jamie, do you smell roses? Now, in that really elegant manifestation, Jean was using my patient as an open vessel to facilitate a back and forth dialogue between him and me. I heard him say, I'd like to give you roses. He puts the scent of roses and the thought of roses in her mind and then has her tell me. So she's facilitating this dialogue. Now, I'm going to give another example that's kind of like got all the bells and whistles between human open vessels and electronic device, earthly props. So last year I did the Coast to Coast show. And Love Never Dies became an overnight bestseller. It sold out on Amazon. Next day, I get a call from a guy who says, your husband is burning up my brains with messages for you. And then he starts telling me things in French and Italian. And I knew it was Jean using this guy as an open vessel because the things the guy was saying in French and Italian were the things Jean used to say to me. And then the guy pauses and he says, but Jamie, I'm a hillbilly. I don't know no Italian. I said, dude, I believe you. Your accent sucks, right? Now, a couple of days later, it's Valentine's Day. And he calls me and he says, you better be sitting down because I have to tell you what happened. I said, what happened? He said, I was sitting at my computer this morning with my hands in my lap, nowhere near, not even touching the keyboard, when I hear your husband say, send Jamie the photo of the peach-colored rose. Now, nobody in the world knows he gave me not only roses each week, but peach-colored roses, okay? The guy says, with his hands in his lap, Jean manipulates his computer, opens up a photo of a peach-colored rose, and then he opens up the title of the photo, Peaches and Cream. And the night before, the man had said to me, your husband says your time is now, to which I had replied, he always told me the cream rises to the top. So the photo was peaches and cream. Now, this way that Jean came through this guy and manipulated his computer, he's doing this with a lot of people. You told me before we came on air, he did this with you, that you asked to be awakened gently, you said. And that
I wanted to be up.
Right?
I wanted to be up by 4 o'clock because I wanted to give this book some extra attention. I called it DLC, and so I asked. I put a prayer out there before going to sleep. Make sure I wake up by 4 o'clock, nice, kind, and gentle, before my alarm as well. And at 3:36, the computer turned on on its own screen, bright screen right there.
It's so true. He does it all the time to me, to my hosts, my when I do guest appearances. When you go to my website, askdrlove.com, on the top there's a store menu, and if you drop down Love Never Dies Experiential Retreats, where I do live and virtual 4-hour retreats where I bring the book to life and help you become receptive and dialogue. You'll see there's a video there. And in the video, you'll see where he took over my computer and posted an Eiffel Tower photo. I wasn't even touching the computer. And you'll see the whole story. It's awesome.
So can you give a couple quick ideas that we can use to start down this process?
That's what we're going to do. So what we do now is, so in addition to this dialoguing, right, through open vessels and through animals and humans, I also show you how you can do a direct dialogue. You can talk back and forth. And this is especially important if you're one of the millions of people who harbors some unfinished business with someone in spirit, or you want to have guidance, or you want to say goodbye to the physical body. So now Love Never Dies shows you how to enter a trance. We do my meditation for making contact, and then we dialogue back and forth. And we do it in writing. I show you how to do it in writing, or how to use a tape recorder. And there's a lot of discussion in this part 3 of Love Never Dies for how to handle dialogues where you've been molested physically or emotionally or sexually. And I show you how to do a supervised visitation dialogue. So it's all there. And I just want everybody to know this one thing, because this is so reassuring. The Western grief therapy tells us, well, you know what? If somebody left his body before you had a chance to work it out, it's too late, you're SOL. And I want everybody to know, oftentimes we have to wait until they leave their bodies to work it out, because they have to be out of their bodies to fully understand how they screwed up with us. Okay. Now, I discovered this 1 week after Jean left his body when I went in for car repair. They didn't know me. Jean did the car thing. I introduced myself to Debbie, who was working the desk. And I say, Jean left his body. And she says, my husband is dead as well. And the next thing I know, her husband starts pounding down my door with a message for her. And he says to me, tell her to stop making the same mistake that I did with our son, because now she's creating the same power struggle. And this flabbergasted me, because I realized, whoa, he needed to be out of his body to get this.
And he communicated with you because you were in a more receptive place?
Yes. Yeah, well, because I discovered I can hear them all. Jean sort of opened the door to me, to all the spirits. So, okay, it's a party. So now there's one other thing I want everybody to know, and this is so reassuring and comforting. Not only can they only work it out with us very often when they've left their body because they see it, they actually need us to work it out with them in order to assist them to evolve spiritually. They're not in peace until they know we're in peace with them, and they need us to confront them in order for them to evolve and grow spiritually. Now, I discovered this, Michael, on the first Good Friday, and Jean sent me to Lainey, the bird lady's house. I didn't know her personally, but she She tried to help us save our little canary, and we weren't successful. And it's years later, okay? So I go to her bird studio, and I walk in the door, and she points out this little tiny Gouldian finch that's not looking well. It's sort of slumped over and puffed up. And she says, this bird will be dead by nightfall. It hasn't eaten in 2 days. And it's so small, if it doesn't get some food soon, it will just keel over and die. So I said, do you want me to help the bird? She says, if you want to try. So I go over and I lean my cheek against the bar. And I'm going to now energetically communicate with this bird. Same thing as energetically communicating with our loved ones in spirit. Same. But I speak aloud so she can hear me. I tell the bird, go down to your seed bowl right now and start eating. The bird listens, starts scarfing up seeds like a little vacuum. The more it scarfs, the stronger it gets. And it starts to chirp and it's looking good. Now I begin to hear a mother presence. I don't know who's in spirit, who isn't, but I hear her mother saying, I'm sorry, I was such a weakling and I didn't protect you from him. I say this, she bursts into tears. She says, that's my mom. She used to call herself a weakling all the time. Now I look back at the bird's looking sick again, craning its neck upward, and I'm aware there's another spirit presence that's making this bird sick. I say to the bird, go back to eating. Don't worry, I'll help Lainey with this other spirit. And now I'm aware it's her father. And he starts to say, I know you're still stuck in childhood. You are still traumatized in fear. You're afraid of me. You're scared of your own shadow because I molested you. And he said, I am begging you to face me and confront me for your own personal healing and growth, and so that I can evolve too. I have to be confronted. So we used my dialoguing with the departed technique. We talked back and forth with him. By the time I left, she was in peace with him, and the bird lived. So now here's the neatest thing of all, and I want everybody to really grasp the power of this. Remember I said when we were talking earlier that Jean promised he would send me his clone, and I promised I'd get back to that? Okay, I'm going to explain what he meant. And this is the neatest part of all in Love Never Dies. We all know, Michael, our purpose on earth. It's just to perfect our ability to love ourselves and to love others. That's all we're here for. This life is our love lab. That's it. Now, I am living proof of the challenge. How do you fully and deeply love yourself when you were raised in an abusive family? As I said, my parents were very hateful to me. They physically and verbally beat on me. And even though I spent nearly 30 years with Jean and he surrounded me in love, there was still this part inside me that was still wounded. No matter how much success I had, I still heard my parents' voices putting me down in my head, tearing down my self-esteem. After Jean left his body, I went to my professional group in the city and I told them, I can't deal with this. It's ruining my life. And they all said, tell your parents to shut the F up and let our voices shout them into submission. This never worked. Never worked for me. Never worked for my patients. I come home and I get on my knees and I'm weeping and I beg Jean to help me. Please help me. And suddenly, Michael, he appears to me as the embodiment of love. He takes my face in his hands. He turns me toward him in the light. And he says to me, Jamie, listen, listen, listen to me. Let my love for you fully enter you. And Michael, in that moment, he energetically, spirit cloned himself inside me. And his love for me became my own self-love. And I had to wait until he left his body, till he was freed from the vessel of his body, for his love to fully enter me. And so this is the most amazing aspect of Love Never Dies. When we allow our loved ones to re-enter us and heal every part of us, mind, body, emotion, soul, our hearts now become an overflowing well of love that we are now able to pour onto the world. And that is Love Never Dies.
I love that. I love that. I love that, because what it means is things can actually get better after someone passed away.
I say your luck gets a lot better when people leave their bodies, because now you've got all these people in spirit pulling for you, and they're able to help you better, freed from the physical vessel. So when people say to me, oh, so-and-so left his body or died, I said, good for you. Your life's going to get better.
Woohoo!
But I heal mind, body, and soul, and I see it time and again when I help people connect on, my Love Never Dies show on Hay House, or they come to one of my Love Never Dies retreats. I'm actually going to be doing some floating retreats, believe it or not, where I'm going to take people on the sea, and we're going to spend a week together. Imagine a healing floating university.
Few quick. Go for it. Few quick questions. One, what do you tell parents who've lost a child?
You must reconnect, and you must stay connected, because it's against the natural order of things for kids to lose parents, for parents to lose kids. So we must reconnect and stay connected. And you wouldn't believe how many people I've helped to do this, kids who are just so lost, and now they're just talking to their moms and dads in spirit. Or I have one woman who's become one of my certified coaches, because I now train people in my method, Jacqueline. She was raised Catholic, and I kept saying, why don't you help your kid reconnect to your husband, his father? Oh, well, I'll wait till he's older. She was all afraid of devils and dark.
Now this is a boy who's still in the physical realm, and the father is
yes,
passed on.
And his dad's in spirit. And she's starting with another fear, which we address in part 2 of Love Never Dies. Well, the Catholic Church says there's devils and dark forces and all this other crap. So we debunked all that, and she said, and I said to her, you don't want to wait. What do you want him to reconnect when he's an adult? He needs his dad now. So that she helped him to reconnect, and all the grief in that family turned around.
Beautiful. So a question I asked just before the end, and at the end, would love it if you can lead us in a meditation here.
Love to.
Which is, what personally brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
Oh, it's this. It's letting people know we don't die, and our relationships are not meant to end in death, and it's never too late to make peace. This has changed my life, and so I have an obligation to go out and let the world know this,
Beautiful. So where can people go to find out more and to find your book? And yes, I'm not saying that you need to get up at 3:36 in the morning to be reading the book, unless your computer turns you on for your Kindle. But I would highly recommend that people get it.
Oh, that's awesome. And I promise he won't wake you up at 3:36 unless you ask him to, like you asked him to help you.
Yeah.
And then he will. So come to askdrlove.com, askdrlove.com. And you will find everything of the Love Never Dies book page, and you can order the book through my site or wherever books are sold. But if you order it through my site, you'll receive an autographed copy from me. And you'll see there my Love Never Dies retreats. You'll see under my live appearances where you can hear me speak live, and my new Spirit at Sea cruises where you can come with me and I'll help you reconnect and dialogue while we're at the sea. So it'll be a beautiful vacation on top of everything else. And if you feel called to really bring this message and be a pebble in the pond, bring this loving message, you could consider becoming one of my transdimensional grief therapy coaches. I'm training coaches. I have my first batch already trained and let loose upon the world. And I have a gift also for your audience if you'd like.
Sure, go for it.
You like a gift? Everybody loves presents. So, 2 gifts. The first is when you sign up for my free newsletter, you'll receive the preface and the intro. And a lot of people do this because they can't wait to get the book, so that gets you going. Then, when you buy the paperback, you can write to my webmaster. It's right on the homepage at AskDrLove.com, webmaster at AskDrLove.com. And then you will receive a private video of a talk that I gave at the Bigger Game Expo where Jean made his first manifestation on film, and it's captured on film. So that's my gift.
Very cool. So if you're driving down the road, if you didn't catch that, we've got all the links. We'll get you over there. Go to inspirenationshow.com. Fantastic. So before we wrap things up, I've got to ask, any last words of wisdom that you want to share with people?
Everybody is so lucky to have you as the show host, because I have to say, I'm interviewed all over the world. You are the best host I have ever had, because you really do your homework and you get it, and it's all so clearly heart-centered, the work you do. And I just loved being with you. So, the message, Jean gave me a lot of rhymes, and he still does, to make me remember important messages. So I'll give you one of his rhymes, and it's an epigraph in one of the chapters of Love Never Dies. You can allow the mystery to unfold by not believing everything you've been told.
Can we do that one more time slowly?
You can allow the mystery to unfold by not believing everything you've been told.
Amen.
Yeah. So you want me to lay the visualization? And by the way, everybody says my voice helps him or her enter a trance, that I just knock them unconscious. So at my Love Never Dies store menu, when you go dropping down, you'll see Love Never Dies meditation audio. And I do all the meditations in Love Never Dies in my own voice in that audio. And the visualization that we're going to do now is just one of the many meditations in that audio.
Beautiful. And I guess I should put a little, I don't know if warning is the right word, but based on what you've just described, let's not do this while you're driving down the road.
Don't try this at home. No, yes, try this at home, just not when you're driving home. Right.
Perfect.
Okay. So we're ready?
We are.
Okay. So start by sitting or lying. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. And as you inhale, imagine a golden light entering your body through your crown chakra, the energy center located at the top of your head. And with each exhalation, feel this warm golden light washing over your body. Imagine it having the power to penetrate your blood, your organs, and your cells. And as you exhale, feel the tension leaving your body through your fingertips and toes. And as the tension eases, feel yourself sinking deeper and deeper into the chair, couch, or bed. Now imagine this light pouring over you like warm lava that's melting into you. Your muscles are turning to taffy, melting under a summer sun. See this light as it flows downward, starting from your head, and then moving down your face, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, your hands, your fingers, your chest, your upper back, your stomach, your mid-back, your groin, your lower back, your thighs, your knees, your shins, your calves, your ankles, your feet, and your toes. And if you sense any areas of your body resisting the flow, visualize your inhaling breath entering those areas of constriction, and then imagine your exhaling breath flushing out the tension. And as you continue breathing, feel yourself sinking deeper and deeper into a state of relaxation, as if you're in a bucket being lowered into a well, or in an elevator dropping lower and lower until you reach the state in which you're free of tension and worry. And when you do this at home, you will take as much time as you need to be completely free of tension and worry, and then Love Never Dies will guide you to move on to my meditation for making contact, and then you will begin your dialogue. You are love, Michael.
Thank you.
You really are.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. This has been a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Wonderful having the hour with you. I loved it.
So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, remember love never dies, and shine bright. Woohoo! Thank you so much.
It was beautiful. Beautiful
Everyone,
interview.
thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirnationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe, see the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!